Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Everybody in this game seems to be concerned about who the best champion is. Who are the game breakers, who are the damage dealers, who are the ones that are going to transform your account. But what gets talked about less often is who are the worst. Who are the duds, who are the memes, who are the ones that make you want to leave a fist-sized hole in your wall every time they come out of a crystal. Let's get into it.
So kicking off this list at number 10 is Winter Soldier. We all know him, we all love him, we love beating him up, but nobody loves using him to beat people up because he really has nothing going for him offensively, or defensively for that matter. He has access to a small Fury on his basic attacks, he has access to some DOT on his SB 1, 2 and 3, and if he's awakened and at a relatively high sig, he has access to an unreliable power drain. Now I also do feature footage of him with a synergy with Killmonger that turns him into a bit of a skill Star-Lord, where every hit in his combo meter increases his attack rating up to a maximum of 400, and this does give him by far the highest damage ceiling of anybody on this list. But let's be honest, you're not going to be carting around Killmonger just for your payoff to be 6-star Winter Soldier. That is not advisable, and yeah, okay, the damage eventually becomes pretty great. As you can see, this Venom fight goes down very, very quickly indeed after the synergy. But just think of the lack of utility that this guy has. You are not going to be using him in any actual content, Act 7, Act 8, or endgame content like Abyss or Necropolis over any other Everest option. Yeah, the synergy fixes his damage, but you're not going to be using it. You're not going to be casting around Killmonger. Overall, slightly weak attempt at a buff. So moving on to number 9 is Unstoppable Colossus. Now, I have several grievances with the champion, but what does he have going on? Well, on his basic attacks, he has access to a Fury. On fight start, and whenever he throws a special, he has access to an Unstoppable, and he's bleeding you. Basically, think of him as pre-buff Juggernaut, but without the stagger and bleeding you. Yeah. He has no way of increasing his damage past that small Fury, which is obviously pathetic, but he does have a nice synergy with Red Guardian that I'm about to showcase here. And remember, this is a 5-star rank 1, not a 6-star rank 1, so this takedown is going to be quite impressive. And what this synergy does is it allows him to stack more Furies and then pause them with his heavy attack. So, yeah, this fixes his damage problem, but this leads me on to my biggest grievance. The only way you can get this champion is through either buying him with loyalty straight up, or by getting very, very, very lucky with a loyalty crystal. Now, nobody in their right mind is going to be using loyalty to buy this character when it could be going towards precious AW resources, like health potions, like revives, like boosts. Okay, you have to cast around Red Guardian, which is no hardship, but you are never going to bring this guy into any form of content. Getting him is such a pain. I don't have him as a 6-star, and I'm an endgame player. Just a pointless champion, badly designed. Moving on to number 8, we have Cyclops, the effective GOAT himself. Now this could be red Cyclops, it could be blue Cyclops. Pick your poison because they're both crap. So what does Cyclops have going on? Well, Cyclops has access to a precision buff and some armor breaks on his special attacks, and as you can see, the damage is quite nice, but the duration on the armor breaks is meaningless, and overall he just lacks utilities. No immunities to speak of at all, no access to anything that would allow him to combat the relevant skilled defenders, now or indeed at any point in time. Although if you kit this guy out with a full mutant synergy team, he has been known to down Realm of Legends fights in less than a minute. This is not a full synergy team, because I am not running the Horseman pre-fight, nor am I running the Magneto pre-fight. But even at that point, you need to be running him at max sig, max rank, max boosts, including power back boosts, suicides, full synergy team, and it's a lot of effort for a joke. Right? Nobody's putting that much investment in realistically. And on top of the fact that he has basically no utility to speak of, a very, very poor champion. He narrowly missed out on a buff. The community voted for another champion on this list. But moving on to number 7, we have Captain Marvel Classic, or Miss Marvel. I named both champions here. They're exactly the same. They're the same champion with a different skin, and they have 3 lines of abilities. Here they are. Poison immunity. Her SB1 does true damage, and on her basic attack she has a chance to get a Fury. Now, the reason she isn't further down is because on her own, she is actually a decent damage dealer. As you can see when we crit, she is hitting quite hard. But again, just that lack of utility and lack of ramping up her base damage any higher means she isn't going anywhere. So at number 6 is Daredevil. Now Daredevil falls short just by having a negative damage output. He has no way whatsoever, not even a Fury buff, unlike every other champion on this list thus far, that can increase his base damage. He has access to a precision buff on his special attacks, which increases his crit rate, which is quite nice. But he does have some interesting utility, which is he can't miss, which is occasionally useful. And also, fun fact, on his awakened ability at high sig, he has up to a 100% chance to evade projectile attacks, which, when the Collector originally came out, made him the best counter, because he was the only champion where you could reliably not get smacked with an unblockable special attack, but he has no damage. So, at number 5, we have Beast. And Beast is interesting to me, because Beast appears to me to be a half-assed attempt at a mutant defender, because he has 2 abilities, passive and in his acrobat mode, that allow him to slow down the skill class slightly. He can reduce the critical damage rating of the opponent by 85%, and he can reduce the duration of incoming bleeds by 60%, which is great, but the game's moved on, and offensively, he has absolutely nothing. He has a small bleed. Fantastic. Nothing else. Very worthy of a number 5 on this list. At number 4, we have Groot. Yes, there are 3 other champions on this list that are worse than Groot. People forget that Groot actually does have some decent utility. Groot is bleed immune. He reduces the duration of incoming debuffs. He has access to some buffs for a bit, kind of. And yeah, you can see he hits I am Groot, and he has, technically, a damage payoff. Technically. That was kidding. He gains a Fury buff for, like, less than 10 seconds. It's just pathetic. He's from the Cosmic class, for Christ's sakes. And he's Groot. He's such an iconic character. He came into the game after Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's just been a disappointment. From the day he joined to now, and there are no signs that he is going to be getting any love in the future. You know, you see all these buffs and you think, alright, he's got to be hitting quite hard, or at least he's regenerating. He's not doing either. You'll see me hitting for maybe a couple K on crits, and then I'll throw off my SB2 and it'll just do no damage at all. It's really a joke. He takes nearly 2 minutes to take an Act 4 fight as a 6-star, and it's just pathetic. It's tragic, this character, and there's a good reason why he's become such a meme in the community, because you do not want to see this guy coming out of your crystals. And yet, I think there are 3 more champions on this list who I would rather not get. As he ends the fight, what's the time? 1 minute, nearly 1 minute 40. To take an Act 4 fight as a 6-star. Let's move it on. Coming in at number 3, we have Rhino. Now, Rhino was designed to be a defender. I'll be the first to admit that. So not much thought was put into his offensive kit, but nowadays, as every other champion has a slow, and there are just so many ways of getting around his medium dash, and let's all be honest, we've all been caught out by it once. Everybody's been hit with a Rhino dash, but with so many new counters, the flaws and the shortcomings of his offensive potential have just become more and more clear, to the point where You know, it's just, he's almost a troll champion. You see this enormous animal pop up out of the crystal and you think, oh, that would be great. Yeah. How wrong you'd be to think that. So, oh, Christ. It's actually painful having to watch these champions even do anything. But coming in at number 2 is the champion the community voted to get a buff in 2025. So we'll be seeing that at some point. But for now, OG Captain America. He's Captain America, for crying out loud, and he hits this week. What can I say about Captain America? He has a bleed on his SP2. Maybe. It's not even guaranteed. Which is adorable, more than anything else. Also, his awakened ability, as his health gets lower, he gains more block efficiency. Now, personally, I wouldn't even let it get that far. If I so happen to accidentally enter a fight with this character, I would either A, let myself get hit, or B, throw my phone out of the window. Whichever is easiest and most convenient to me, because playing this character is more painful than childbirth. It is quite incredible the suffering you have to experience to play one of the most iconic characters in Marvel history, as I just get smacked about for a bit. And I really hope that they do his buff justice. This SB2 isn't even going to end it. There we go. And you get all these fireworks at the end like, well done, you've completed an enormous mission that must have been so damn boring. Anyway, before I reveal the worst champion in Marvel Contest of Champions, I have some honourable mentions. My first is Kamala Khan. She didn't quite make the cut for this list, mainly because she has ways of increasing her base damage with a heavier charge and her SB1, gaining quite a few Furies, which does stack up. Her utility with poison immunity, but also her nullifier on her SB1, as well as synergies to beef up her damage a little bit more. And while it's quite an odd sentence, Kamala Khan was just a bit too good. My next honourable mention was Elektra, and I considered Elektra for this list. And then, upon reading her a little bit more closely, I discovered the foundation of what is actually quite a good champion. She is most definitely not going to feature on this list. She has the ability to reduce the opponent's defensive ability accuracy by 85% when they're suffering from only 1 debuff, which is actually really impressive. When the opponent goes below 15% health, she has guaranteed critical hits, which is amazing. And when she's awakened, that goes up to 25%. And she has some very nice damage from her bleeds, from her special attacks. And if the opponent's bleed immune, it's replaced with a longer armor break. That's modern day stuff. That's the type of stuff we expect from 2024, 2025 champions. My final honourable mention is Abomination. He would 100% have been on this list. He has like 5 lines of abilities. But unfortunately, I checked out his Red Guardian synergy, who of course is no hardship to bring along, and it was a bit too good. So, the worst champion in Marvel Contest of Champions is Iron Patriot. What can I say about Iron Patriot? Not much. Not much, for sure. If I was asked to describe him, I would say, imagine OG Iron Man, and then make him worse, somehow. Yeah, that's what I'd say. So, what does he have going on? Well, he has a chance to apply a very weak and very short armor break on his SB1. He has a higher chance to apply armor breaks and quite a long stun on the SB2, which would be great if the armor breaks actually increased his damage by anything noticeable. His SB3 has quite a long stun, but no other effects. And apart from that, he has no way of increasing his base damage at all. He also has his Arc Overload like all other Iron Men, but just to make it worse, he armor breaks himself, which is just tragic. And what really rubs salt into the wounds is the fact that they tried to buff this guy with a synergy with Red Goblin that allows him to use his Arc Overload over and over again after a 60-second cooldown, which, to be fair, it's quite a big heal, so that might be balanced. But it also gives him a 300% Fury, and he's still not viable. If Kabam can give you a 300% damage increase, which, by the way, is the sort of increase we see in the monthly event quest, Like, and we know how insane that is. And you're still not being used by anyone. What does that say about that character? Pathetic. Get out of my sight. Recording this fight, in fact recording all of these fights, just made me so bored I had a headache. Anyway, before I get even more triggered, if you have made it this far, thank you very much for watching. This was a very painful video to make. Bye-bye.